Time Warner Cable is pleased to be an underwriting sponsor for Carolina Week.
Coming up on the March 17th edition of Carolina Week.
The census is going out this week. We'll tell you what role students should play.
I'm Bethany Tuggle. We're continuing our coverage of student fees. Once a fee is on the books, is there any way to get rid of it?
In sports, basketball season isn't over quite yet, while spring football is just beginning.
Weathercaster Elizabeth Lamb will tell us what spring has in store for us.
All that and why one Tar Heel is a little more excited about March Madness than most students on campus.
Carolina Week starts right now.
From the James F. Goodman Studio in the School of Journalism and Mass Communication at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, connecting campus and community, this is Carolina Week.
The official count of the 2010 census begins this week. Good evening. I'm Andrea Blanford.
And I'm Chris Neal. Thanks for joining us. The 2000 census showed more than 241 million people living in the U.S. So what will the number look like a decade later? Julianne McKellogg joins us live in the studio. Julianne, the government really wants to make sure everyone gets counted this time around, correct?
They do, Chris. In 2000, nearly 34% of North Carolinians didn't fill out their census forms. The Census Bureau wants to lower that number dramatically and is focusing some of that effort right here on campus. Wendy Jones is a junior political science major who has applied to work for the census. But even she admits she's unsure of how she'll be counted as a college student.
But there will be a big issue because prior to going through the application process, I thought that you would do it through your parents.
The governor's census liaison, Bob Coates, says it's very important that everyone pays attention to the forms in their mailboxes.
You need to do it because it's your way of making sure that your interest and your presence counts.
And students should know 3 things to make sure they get counted. 1, on-campus residents won't receive their forms until April 1st from their RAs. 2, students should fill out their own forms. And 3, students should make sure they're not included on their parents' forms. The census data determines the location of schools and hospitals, a state's representation in Congress, and the amount of funding for services like Medicare and maintaining roads. For these reasons, Coates says it's important for students like Wendy to fill out the forms in the places where they live the majority of the time.
Those dollars only come back to our communities if we've been counted on the census and if our numbers are represented in the populations of the places where we live.
Based on recent estimates, North Carolina is the 3rd fastest growing state in the nation, making it even more important for North Carolinians to fill out this form.
Okay, Julianne, does the Bureau have a certain strategy for counting members of these hard-to-reach groups?
Chris, they do. Starting in mid-April, workers will go door to door to make sure hard-to-reach groups like immigrants, young African-American males, and new residents in the area get counted.
All right, Julianne McKellogg starting us off tonight live in our studio. Thanks, Julianne.
The U.S. could reach a major milestone in health care as soon as Friday, but the proposed bill is generating tons of controversy. The House is expected to vote on the Senate's version of the health care bill this week. The bill, designed to provide affordable, quality health care, is tangled in Congress. If approved, it could make for easier access to medicine, especially for those without insurance. The plan also calls for making things such as shots, prescriptions, as inexpensive as possible. Critics call it a government takeover of health care that would double the national debt in 5 years. Local North Carolina members of Congress have mixed views about the bill. David Price has said he'll vote yes, while Bob Etheridge, also a Democrat, is still undecided. Various groups are trying to sway his vote this week.
If you're like a lot of other Americans, you spend a lot of time surfing the web. That web could soon experience a lot more faster changes. Chapel Hill and Carrboro are among many communities across the country competing to be a trial site for the new Google fiber optic network. Citizens showed their support Monday night with hopes of bringing the high-speed internet to the area. Google says the fiber optic network is more than 100 times faster than most current high-speed internet options. Chapel Hill, Carrboro, and UNC will submit a joint application to be a trial area for the service next week.
As part of the governor's highway safety initiative, you can expect to see more DWI checkpoints in Chapel Hill. You can run, but you can't hide if you drink and drive. You never know when you might hit a DWI checkpoint. Here's one on Pittsboro Street just last night. Officers checked driver's licenses and asked some drivers to take field sobriety tests, testing their visual reactions to light, ability to walk straight, and balance. Police administered breathalyzers and made 2 arrests. Lieutenant Lawrence Twitty warned students DWIs are completely avoidable.
Use the resources that you have here. You have point-to-point. You have, most students live within walking distance from uptown, from the bars. Use those resources.
You can expect to see more DWI checkpoints throughout the state, not just in Chapel Hill.
The basketball team is trying to move forward by moving back to the place where the Heels used to play back in the 80s. Fans streamed into Carmichael Tuesday night to watch the men take on William & Mary in the first round of the NIT. Renovations at the Smith Center forced the move from the men's normal home. Carmichael currently plays host to 5 Carolina sports, but this game was the first since the 1985-86 season that the men have played there. Through the years, they have compiled an impressive 169 wins and 20 losses at Carmichael. Last night's win made it an even 170. The first round of the NCAA tournament kicks off tomorrow. Not that it matters to many Tar Heel fans. There won't be anything worth celebrating in Chapel Hill this time around. Take a look at this year's bracket. North Carolina is nowhere to be found. However, many students still plan to participate in the madness, but others are less enthused about a tournament without Roy's boys. At the very least, you can count on some Tar Heels tuning in with the hopes of the all-too-familiar early upset for Duke.
Before spring break, we took a look at the fees we pay as students here at Carolina. Bethany Tuggle is live in our satellite studio to take another look at the fees. Bethany, do we have a say in what we pay for?
Andrea, the answer is yes and no. We pay more than $1,400 a year in student fees, and if you don't benefit from a particular fee, there doesn't seem to be much you can do about it.
Assistant Vice Chancellor for Finance at Carolina, Roger Patterson, says you can.
There are multiple ways through websites or letters or phone calls that parents and students can call and raise concerns or issues about fees.
Jenna Robinson at the Pope Center for Higher Education Policy is skeptical that this would make a difference. She thinks some fees should become optional.
The students who are choosing to use it should pay for it, and the students who aren't using it should be allowed to save those pennies.
UNC junior Katie Puttkammer would like to have that option.
Right now I'm $14,000 in debt just for this 1 year, just to help pay the tuition and the living expenses. So if I could bring that down, by the time I graduate, I won't have such a large debt.
Puttkammer works a part-time job to keep from going further in debt and says between work and school she doesn't even have time to benefit from the services her student fees pay for. Puttkammer and all other UNC students also pay a debt service fee, including $74 for renovation of Lenore Hall and Ramshead dining facilities, $64 for the construction of the Student Recreation Center, and $42.50 for the construction of the Ramshead Recreation Center. The debt service fee goes away when the debt is paid, but student body president Jasmine Jones says it takes a lot to get rid of other fees.
It would be very hard to get something removed, but the fact is that you can get it removed if everybody just doesn't like it.
Jones says before students complain about a fee, they should understand that the system only works with everyone contributing.
Since the 93-94 school year, UNC has eliminated one fee. Students no longer have to pay the dollar they once paid for publishing the Carolina Course Review. That information about course offerings is now online.
Bethany, it looks like it's pretty uncommon to just get rid of these fees, but what about reductions? Have there been any of those?
No, there haven't, Andrea. That's despite the Board of Governors policy that states in regard to the fees committee, if the committee determines that an increasing a fee is needed, the committee shall attempt to decrease another fee so that the total cost of education for students does not increase. No fees have gone down in 17 years, and that's as far back as the university's information goes. In fact, since 2000, general fees have gone up by 87%. By comparison, the rate of inflation during that time period has been 26%. So for the math challenged among us, fees have gone up at more than 3 times the rate of inflation in the past 10 years.
So tuition rates aren't all we have to worry about. That's Bethany Tuggle live in our satellite studio. Thanks, Bethany.
Coming up after the break, we'll show you a good excuse you can give your professors for being behind in your reading.
Can spending too much time in story coming up.
The mailbox and the traffic light. Both are ideas from the minds of African Americans. Support the United Negro College Fund, because a mind is a terrible thing to waste.
I'm starving. What's for breakfast?
Guten Tag!
Johannes, Franz!
I bring you arts-enriched Raisinblams, fortified with increased test scores and creative problem-solving skills.
It's good!
And good for you.
Bobby? Susie?
Don't worry, that's just the power of the arts!
Feed your kids the arts. For 10 simple ways to learn how, visit AmericansForTheArts.org.
Oh, those boys are much too much. Those boys are much too much. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We got the spirit. We're hot. We can't be stopped. We're going to beat them and bust them. Beat them.
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life.
Let's get a little bit rowdy. R-O-W-D-Y.
Take time to be a dad
One more
today.
time. All those boys are much too much. Those boys.
The American Optometric Association reports that visual problems from computer use account for 10 million eye care exams a year. Healthcare reporter Taylor Clark tells us if electronic reading threatens our eyes.
Sophomore Abby Freeman bought a Kindle because she felt it was easier on her eyes than a computer screen. Abby estimates she spends at least 2 hours a day doing what's known as e-reading. UNC lecturer Gary Kane says people e-read in a lot of ways.
The term e-reader really should encompass any sort of electronic device that allows you to read a book. I mean, you can literally read a book on a BlackBerry or an iPhone. You can read a book on your laptop. You can read a book on a desktop.
The American Optometric Association says many e-readers suffer from eye strain, blurred vision, and dry eyes. In a 1997 report, the association described visual discomfort related to computer use as a growing health concern. But that was a time when computer monitors used old-fashioned cathode ray tubes. Still, even with LCD monitors and new technologies like the Kindle, people like Abby worry computer use damages their eyes.
I have to go to the eye doctor soon. I think it's all the computer screen, looking at that every day for such long periods of time.
But ophthalmologists such as UNC's Dr. Mary Elizabeth Hartnett have a different view.
There's no evidence to suggest that reading one way or another would harm the eyes or be better for the eyes.
Hartnett says eye fatigue associated with e-reading has less to do with computers and more to do with the way we read on computers.
They're concentrating on whatever they're working on, and so they don't blink as frequently, and the blink rate goes down, and there can be evaporation or loss of the fluid on the tear film, so their eyes actually get dry.
To avoid eye fatigue, Hartnett offers these tips. Use eye drops, take breaks during long periods of reading, and avoid glaring lights. Not easy to do if you're a student, but well worth it if you're trying to save yourself from eye strain. In Chapel Hill, I'm Taylor Clark, Carolina Week.
And with final exams rapidly approaching, it might be a good idea to follow these tips.
Summer is quickly approaching, and most of us are trying to get in the best shape possible before it's time to hit the pools. One step to that healthier body is cooking with healthy ingredients. Healthy Heals, a campus organization that promotes healthy eating, sponsored a vegetarian cooking class Tuesday night. A campus Harishkana group taught the class how to cook with Indian cuisine with ingredients such as spice, rice, and cauliflower. Indian food tends to be low in fat and sugars, which can help you maintain a healthy weight.
The Campus Y and UNC's chapter of Amnesty International are sponsoring events all week long as part of their death penalty awareness campaign. UNC students took up signs in front of the state prison in Raleigh Monday, protesting against the death penalty. The protest is part of Nazareth House's weekly vigil. The group shows support for death row inmates and their families, and also pushes for the elimination of capital punishment in North Carolina. The most recent execution carried out in our state was in August of 2006.
Well, Andrea, the first day of spring isn't till Saturday, but the weather doesn't seem like it wants to wait.
That's right. Well, weathercaster Elizabeth Lamb is here.
That's right, Andrea. Chris, it must be the luck of the Irish because things are looking really nice outside.
perfect for sitting in the quad. After the break, I'll tell you what's in store in Chapel Hill.
En el bosque las ratas jugaban. Fósforos que no es muy bueno.
Escucha Smokey antes de tratar.
Solo tú. No juegues con fósforos, no juegues con fuego. Fuego. No hay nada para tu pobre conejo asustado. A un pobre ratón sin casa en que vivir. Si lo hermoso bosque es lo que deseas, no juegues con fósforos, no juegues con fuego.
Solo tú puedes prevenir los fuegos forestales.
¡Fuego!
Take my hand and start a brand new day. And together as one we'll start to see some change.
Underneath everything we are, underneath everything we do, we are all people, connected, interdependent, united. And when we reach out a hand to one, we can influence the condition of all. That's what it means to live united.
I'm Jeremy Call, and I made suction tires. Wait, what? Wait. I used a rivet gun to connect the suction cups, and then I just connected it to the tire. I got the idea from an octopus because of the suction cups, and I don't know.
Anything's possible. Keep thinking. Get started on your invention at inventnow.org.
Welcome to Carolina Week Weather. I'm weathercaster Elizabeth Lamb. Let's take a look at some nice weather headlines. It's so sunny outside right now. It's beautiful weather. Spring-like temperatures, which is perfect because spring is right around the corner. On Sunday, the rain might return though, so I'll tell you more about that in a few minutes. If we take a look at the satellite, we see that over Chapel Hill, there's no cloud coverage right now or rain, which is making for the really nice weather we're feeling outside. Although over in this Gulf region, there is some cloud coverage which could eventually head up our way, but we don't really think that will make everything very cloudy. If we take a look at the surface map, we can see where those clouds are coming from. There's an area of low pressure around Florida, which again could be headed our way, but we don't really see that being a big issue. There's also an area of high pressure over here, which is keeping our weather nice and wonderful for the arrival of spring. If we take a look at Thursday's surface map, we see this area of low pressure slowly coming up the east coast. So it could bring with it a little bit of rain, a little bit of cloud coverage, but it shouldn't really be too much to slow you down this weekend and tomorrow. Over in the western part of the region is where our next weather newsmaker is. This is an area of high pressure that will be coming in and keeping all of our weather nice and very spring-like. We all know that UNC is in the second round of the NITs. We're playing Mississippi State on Sunday night, And as far as that weather goes, it should be around 67 degrees, halftime around 73 degrees warmer, and post-game it should be around 72, but it is supposed to rain a little bit, so for any students who might be going to that game, you should probably grab a jacket that's waterproof so you won't get too wet in that rain. If we take a look at the weather for tonight, it should be around 40 degrees in the Triangle as well as the surrounding areas. Clear, cool, and calm, those are the buzzwords for this evening. And if you're going out to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, be sure to bring a jacket and make sure it's green. Tomorrow, it should be around 71 in the Triangle as well as the Triad and Fayetteville areas, sunny and warm. I don't think it's been around 70 degrees at all this year, so that should be really, really wonderful. Taking a look at the Carolina Week 5-day forecast, it should be around 70 degrees. Thursday through Saturday, it should be really, really lovely. Sunday and Monday, however, not so good. There's a 50% chance of rain on Sunday, and Monday, it's actually going to be kind of cold. So Thursday and Sunday nights, it will be cold, but Monday, it looks like it's going to tell us that winter is not quite over yet.
Oh no, well thank you, Elizabeth.
All right, thanks, Elizabeth.
This might be a first for our pet of the week, but just in time for spring. We have a friend that's sure to leave you smiling. Take a look. This furry friend might be a little camera shy, but she's looking for the right owners, not only to hold her in their arms, but to give her a name. Found in a garden, this brown short-haired bunny rabbit loves to hop around freely. She's a stray and in need of a new home and change of environment. If you're interested in adopting this bunny rabbit, go to our website at carolinaweek.org for a link to the shelter. Well, it sure looks like the Tar Heels are hopping right along in the NIT.
That's right. Justin Page joins us in the studio. Justin, Tar Heels started off the NIT campaign with a W last night.
They do, Chris, and the road might get tougher, the rest of the way. Big game on Saturday. But coming up after the break, we'll tell you what the football team is working on in the spring.
Mom!
What?
You can't find Ichabod.
What?
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of teens in foster care who would love to put up with you.
Hey guys, this is my teenage friend Fred.
Rad! Hey pal, you want to pay attention to the road?
Relax, man, I got it.
Look, my man, if your bad driving gets me killed, you better hope you die too, or I will haunt you silly. And I'm not just gonna float over your bed like, woo! I'm gonna be making a more annoying noise, like, ah! And instead of wearing those long white robes, I think I'll wear something more form-fitting and upsetting. The other ghosts will look and be like, wow, we've never seen that before.
G-Morning, sunshine. Wakey, wakey. Text me. Are your parents home later? We can hang. LUV, love you. JK. Holla back. Holla back. Holla back. Are you with your friends? That's lame. We're in a huge fight right now. XO. What'd you dream about? Something I did? Are you on your way to the mall? I'm lonely. Nude pics. Send me some. Text me.
Thank you for staying with us and welcome to sports. I'm Justin Page. As we mentioned earlier, the men's basketball team played the first round of the NIT tournament in Carmichael Auditorium last night, and the atmosphere was electric. Sporting the old school jerseys, Deon Thompson came out firing, while this John Henson alley-oop, look at that, got the crowd pumped up. And how about this to end the half? Thompson takes it to the house as time expires, and the Heels, they're looking pretty good. William & Mary, though, attempted 43 threes throughout the game, and they made a bunch of them. But in the end, the Heels were able to pull out the win, 80-72, reaching the 80-point mark for the first time in 2010. That's hard to believe. Deon Thompson says the whole night was a memorable experience.
Played in a couple Final Fours, but being out there on that floor tonight with those fans and all the history that's happened in this auditorium is something I'll always remember.
The Heels will play the second round at Mississippi State Saturday at noon on ESPN. The baseball team has no problem scoring runs this season, but Carolina hitters must have rubbed a little something extra into their bats yesterday against Princeton. First baseman Dylan Hazlett and outfielder Seth Baldwin hit back-to-back jacks in the first inning, and look at freshman Tommy Coyle. He smacked his first career home run with that right there. I'm done with you. Fellow newcomer Brian Goodwin added 3 doubles and 3 RBI in the 25-run onslaught. Righty Garrett Davis tallied a career-high 6 strikeouts and allowed only 1 run in the 25-1 win for the Heels. It's the spring, so that means baseball, lacrosse, and football. Yes, football season has begun, and our Nick King is ready.
Hear that? That's the sound of optimism. The sound of a fresh start. The sound of one more go for a veteran group.
I think for the first time that we've got a senior-laden football team. They took some ownership of it. I mean, they really challenged everybody else on the team to match their intensity, to work hard during the offseason, to be prepared.
An intensity that's not hard to spot. The start of spring practice provides an opportunity for focus. On what?
The major emphasis that we're going to have throughout the course of the spring is fundamentals. I mean, we want to leave spring practice first, second, and third team players being as fundamentally sound offensively, defensively, and special teams as we can possibly be.
For spring practice, Butch Davis wants his team focused on the basics. Shedding blockers, catching the ball cleanly, and holding on to it all the way through contact. Davis's players concur.
The little things, the small things, and I think last year, we lost some games because we didn't do the small things right.
Negative thoughts from the fall are in the rearview mirror. It's 2010 now. As they get back to work, and working hard, There it is. There's a common theme looking forward.
You know, the sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. The sky's the limit for us. We can take us wherever we want to take us. We just got to keep working.
Hear that? That's the sound of a team with big ideas. In Chapel Hill, I'm Nick King, Carolina Week Sports.
The team's spring practices build up to the annual Blue and White game on April 10th. The men's lacrosse team competes at a high level year in and year out, and this year, that level is rising even higher. Against Princeton on Tuesday, the Tar Heels scored 7 goals in the first half and led by 3 at the break. Princeton charged back in the second half and tied the game with 4 minutes to go. But watch this right here. Just a minute later, the Heels' Billy Bitter comes from behind the goal, look at that, and scores to put the Heels ahead. UNC holds on to win 12-10, and the Tar Heels are now 7-0 for the first time since 1993. They take on Dartmouth Friday at 7 at Fetzer Field. So certainly a solid season so far for the lacrosse team, and as we talked about earlier, Saturday, big game for the Heels down at Mississippi State.
Sure is, Justin.
Thanks, Justin. The madness isn't as hype in Chapel Hill as it normally is in March.
But one Carolina student is pulling for a team with a chance to win it all, and it's not the Heels. After the break.
If you have a story idea, call Carolina Week at 919-843-8292 or email us at carolinaweek@unc.edu. If you have questions about this program, write Carolina Week at Campus Box 3365, UNC-CH, Chapel Hill, North Carolina 27599. Be sure to check out Carolina Week and Carolina Connection online at carolinaweek.org.
So, April.
Yeah?
You know your charger's still using energy when it's plugged into the wall, right?
Yeah, but that's not my charger. I don't even have a cell phone.
Millions of kids are using their energy wisely. What's your excuse?
It's easy to tell if you've had way too many. But what if you've had just one too many? Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Even in an off-season, basketball is still a way of life on this campus.
It sure is, Andrea. And for one student, things are just now heating up for her team, and it's not the Heels. Take a look.
Sophomore Molly Edwards stays occupied like most Carolina students. She's in a sorority, worked with Dance Marathon, and balances her schoolwork. And she loves college basketball. Just not the college you might be thinking.
Go Duke.
You heard her right.
What do you mean you're a Duke fan? Why do you go here? It's something along the lines of that.
Question she faces nearly every time she confesses her love for Duke basketball, in a town that hates the other blue. Edwards was one of many not to get into Duke, the place where her dad, Zeno Edwards, was a letter winner on the basketball team in 1972. So now you're probably wondering, does she pull for the Tar Heels too?
No, I cannot cheer for Carolina basketball. Never can, never will.
But it just so happens that on that April night last year, we'll never forget, she was celebrating too.
It's cool because that was also my birthday. Wasn't the best present, but it was really cool. It was a neat experience. Franklin was nuts.
She's been to 3 Carolina basketball games and more Duke games than she can recall.
I was the girl down there wiping up their sweat, and Chris Duhon fell in my lap. I thought I was going to die and go to heaven at that moment. I was like 10.
But don't hate on Molly quite yet. She still loves the town and the school. And don't worry, even her bracket has the Dukies going home without a title this season. In Chapel Hill, I'm Jeremy Spearman, Carolina Week.
A Duke fan here at Carolina.
Definitely not what you would expect, Chris, but I guess, with the lack of having, UNC not in the tournament this year, some students got to have that atmosphere.
Got to do it.
I didn't even know students like that existed here, honestly. I really did. I'm shocked.
Well, you know what? We still got the NIT, so.
We do. Let's pull through.
That does it for this edition of Carolina Week.
Thanks for watching. Good night.